Okay, touch the leg, and I welcome you to the last session of today. And in this session, we are going to learn the fourth type of sentence, that is compound complex. Okay, yes. Now, if you see, now we have started from easy to now we are going to the difficult part. In fact, the most difficult part. Okay, that is the compound complex sentence. Okay, yes. Now let us look at the four types of sentences here. Okay, yes. Now these are the four types of sentences: simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and this session is about compound complex. Okay, from the word itself. Now in this sentence, you will, which is have a blend of compound and complex sentence. Okay, yes. Now, before I start this, the compound complex sentence, let us once again do the recapitulation. Okay, yes. I want you to look at these things, the slides. Simple sentence. What is a simple sentence? Simple sentence has got one independent clause. Now, by now, you are familiar with the words like independent clause and dependent clause, like this. Okay, yes. Now, in simple sentence, you will find independent clause. Okay, one independent clause. For example, Tashi is a teacher. Okay, this is an independent clause. We learn every day. Now, this is also independent clause. Okay, now these are simple sentences. Okay, simple sentence, there is only one independent clause. So I've given you an example of two simple sentences. Okay, Tashi is a teacher. We learn every day. Okay, yes. Now, what is a compound sentence? Compound sentence, it has got two independent clauses, just like Tashi is a teacher, we learn every day, like this. Okay, yes. Now, if you look at this example, okay, yes, two independent clause. Doji is a teacher and he teaches English. Now, why this sentence is compound? This sentence is compound because there are two independent clause. Okay, Doji is a teacher. This is a which is say independent because it makes a sense and it does not have to depend on other which is sentences. Okay, so Doji is a teacher. He teaches English. He teaches English is again independent clause. So in this compound sentence, you will see two independent clauses. Okay, so that's why it is compound sentence. Okay, yes. Now the third one, complex sentence. So what is a complex sentence? You have already learned this in the previous session. Okay, complex sentence, there will be one independent clause and one dependent clause. Okay, yes, independent you already know. Now dependent, okay, yes, a clause which has to depend on the other sentence. Okay, now look at the example. Although there were rights, okay, now this is dependent. It does not make a complete sense. Although there were rights, and then what happened? Okay, someone wants to know what happened. Although there were rights, he can't read. Okay, yes, he can't. Now, this is a complete, what should I say, independent clause. He can't read. Now, in the beginning, the first one is dependent clause. Okay, although there were rights, he can't read. Now, such sentence is called complex sentence. Okay, now, in this sentence, we are going to talk about the compound and complex sentence. Okay, this is the most difficult, what should I say, type of sentence, and I'm sure it will be a great challenge, a good challenge for you if you try to make sentence, compound complex sentence, or when you try to identify such compound sentences in all the text materials that you are reading. Okay, so let us look at compound complex sentence. What is, after all, compound complex sentence? How does it look like? Okay, yes. Now, in compound complex sentence, there are two independent clauses. Remember, there should be two independent clause, and there should be one, at least one dependent clause. Now, by now you know independent clause and dependent clause. Okay, yes. Now look at this example. when Tashi won, okay, when Tashi won, okay, some games or anything, when Tashi won, his parents were happy and he gave a party. Okay, yes. Now, whenever we write a complex compound sentence, the sentence tends to become very long. Why? Because we add so many, which we say, clauses. Okay, now if you look at this, when Tashi won, okay, I want you to look at this, which is a clause, when Tashi won. Is it an independent clause or dependent clause? Okay, now you just decide. Independent, is it independent or dependent? When Tashi won. When Tashi won, by reading this, you will get some idea that this does not make a complete sense. When Tashi won, okay, something should come. Okay, it does not make any. It has to depend on other clause in order to make a complete sense. Okay, yes. So let us say, when Tashi won, his parents were happy. Okay, now it makes a complete sense. His parents were happy. This is independent clause because it does not have to depend on other. It makes a complete sense. His parents were happy. And in compound complex sentence, not just one independent, there should be two independent clauses. Okay, now let us see the next independent clause. And he gave a party. Now, this is the other independent clause. So, if you look at this, how many independent clauses are there? There are two. The first one is his parents were happy. This is first one. The second one, he gave a party. Now, this is the second. So, you see, there are two independent clause. And is there any dependent clause? Yes, there is one dependent clause. When Tashi won. So, this is a dependent clause. Okay, so if you look at this whole, which is a sentence, you will find that there are two independent clause and one dependent clause. So such type of sentence is called compound complex. Okay, yes. Now, when you go through which are different types of books or sometimes the textbook of higher classes, you will come across such which are compound complex sentences. You got it? Okay, yes. Now, compound complex sentence, what you have to keep in mind? You have to keep in mind that there should be two independent clause, okay, yes, and one or more dependent clause. The sentence can also have more than one dependent, okay, according to your own convenience. Okay, you can also introduce two dependent clauses instead of one dependent clause. Okay, yes. Now, this is about compound complex sentence. Okay, now since this is my last session for today, I think recapitulation or reinforcement, it plays very important role whenever we learn. Okay, now as you have seen, Gela and myself used to do which is a recapitulation again and again. I think this is very important. Okay, yes. So that's why let us go back to our which is a first session. Okay, yes. In first session, what we learned about the simple sentence. Okay, yes. Now here is a paragraph. Okay, yes. Here is a paragraph, and I want you to go through each and every sentence in this paragraph, and which is you will get some idea that this paragraph is made up of simple sentence. Okay, yes. A student of class 5 or 6, okay, can write a paragraph by using so many simple sentences. Okay, yes. So please, you go through this paragraph, read each and every sentence. Okay, yes. Okay, I will also read this. One day, Pema and Doma went to the canal. They were going fishing. There seemed to be no one else around. They chose the best place. They started to get out the rods. Then there was a loud splash. Then there was a scream. Pema and Doma looked up. They saw something moving in the water. Then they saw a hand waving. Someone had fallen in the water. So you see, this is a paragraph. Okay, we will learn about the paragraph in detail in the coming session. Okay, now for your kind of, this is just a narrative. Okay, they are just sharing us one, which is the episode. Okay, yes. Now, if you look at this paragraph, there are so many sentences. Okay, and all these sentences are simple sentence. Why this is a simple sentence? Because there is only one subject, one verb, and it makes a complete sense. Okay. Now, when I say simple sentence, okay, yes, it doesn't. What should I say? Whenever we come across the word conjunction, okay. For example, if you look at the first sentence, one day Pema and Doma went to the canal. Okay. Now, sometimes we may doubt that. Okay, since there is a word which is and, which is a connector, I think this may be a compound sentence. Okay. Now, I want to clarify that this sentence is a simple sentence. Okay. Now, in a simple sentence, we can also have two compound subjects. Okay. For example, Pema and Doma, they are not which is a complete sentence. This is just a subject. In simple sentence, we can also have a compound which would say subject. We can also have a compound verb. Okay, even though, what should I say, even after having a two verb, this sentence becomes a simple. For example, Tashi ate and play in the, what should I say, class. Tashi ate and play in the class. So, Tashi ate and play. Do you see some connector? Yes, and. Okay, but does it make this sentence a compound sentence? No. Okay, although there are only two words. Okay, two verbs. Tashi play and eat. It will not make a what should I say, compound sentence. In order to make a compound sentence, we should have a subject verb, and it should have a independent which is a clause. Okay, so that is just for your kind information. Okay, yes. Now, study the paragraph. Okay, yes. Now, I want you to go through these two paragraphs. Okay, you can take your time. Okay, yes. I'm not going to go fast. Yes. Yeah, this one. Okay, I want you to go through this. Study this paragraph. Reading is very important in our life. It broadens our mind. Reading is like exercise to our mind. We learn new things from reading. Reading kills our boredom. It also brings joy. Okay, yes, you go through this. And also, while going through this, I want you to study the types of sentences. What type of sentence is used in this short paragraph? Okay? Yes. Now, I'm going to read the next one, and you will see the difference. Okay, yes. Reading is very important in our life. It broadens our mind. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. If we read, we will learn many new things. Whenever I feel bored, I read books and it cheers me up. Okay, yes. Now, I want you to study these two paragraphs. Okay, yes, and try to see the difference. For example, a lower student which can write the first paragraph, and which is those who are in standard 7, 8, they can write the that second paragraph. Okay, yes. Now, yes, if you look at this, okay, this paragraph, if you look at all the sentences in the first paragraph, you will get some idea that all these sentences are simple sentence. Okay, yes, you will not find any compound sentence, you will not find complex sentence, and you will not find, of course, compound complex sentence. This paragraph is made up of exclusively of simple sentence. Okay, yes. Now, if you look at the next paragraph, okay, yes. Now you will see a mixture. Okay, you will find a different types of all the different types of sentences are used here. Okay, yes. The first one, reading is very important in our life. This is simple. Okay, it broadens our mind. This is a simple sentence. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. Now, Now, if you look at this, what type of sentence is this? This is a compound sentence. Why it is a compound sentence? You will see two independent clause. Okay, reading is to the mind. Okay, this makes a complete sense. Exercise is to the body. This is also complete. So this is a compound sentence. Okay, yes. Now the next one. If we read, we will learn many new things. Okay, if we read, we will learn many new things. Now, we will learn many new things. If you look at this sentence, if you look at this clause, this makes a complete. Okay, this is a independent clause. Okay, we will learn many new things. It makes a sense. It does not have to depend on other clause. Okay, but if we read, if you look at this sentence, this is a dependent clause. Okay, why it is dependent? Because if we read, then it does not make a complete sense. If we read, then obviously the next question will come. Okay, what will happen if we read? Okay, if we read. So this is a dependent. So if you look at this sentence, if we read, we will learn many new things. You will see there are two clauses. The first clause is dependent clause, if we read, and the next clause is independent clause. So what type of sentence is this? Any idea? Okay, now this type of sentence is called complex. Okay, complex sentence is a sentence where we have got one dependent clause and one independent clause. Okay, yes. Now let us look at the last sentence. Okay, whenever I feel bored, I read books and it cheers me up. Okay, now let us study this sentence. Okay, the first sentence is I read books. Do you see this? I read books. Do you think this is a complete sentence? Do you think this makes a complete sense? Do you think this is independent clause? Yes, this is independent. I read books. You understand, it makes a sense. Okay, complete sense. And likewise, I want you to the next one. It cheers me up. It cheers me up. If you look at this, this is a complete sentence. This is independent clause. It can take care of itself in making a complete meaning. It cheers me up. Now you see how many, which we say, independent clause are here. I read books and it cheers me up. Okay, now there are already two independent clause, and we have got one more clause. Okay, yes. Whenever I feel bored. Whenever I feel bored. Now, if you look at this clause, okay, is it a independent or dependent? No, this is a dependent. Whenever I feel bored, it does not make a complete sense. In order to make a complete sense, it has to depend on other clause. So that's why it is called dependent. So whenever I feel bored, what happened? Whenever I feel bored, what do you do? What happens? Okay, yes. Now this is dependent. So if you look at this full sentence, whenever I feel bored, I read books and it cheers me up, you will find that in this sentence there are two independent clauses and one dependent clause. Okay, now such type of sentence come under compound complex sentence. Okay, so if you look at this, the second paragraph, you will see that all the four types of sentences are used here, starting from simple, okay, and then we have the compound, and then we have the complex, and finally we have the compound complex sentence, which is the highest degree, okay, which is the most the difficult part. Okay, so starting from simple, compound complex, and compound complex. Okay, yes. Now I've got some more which is an exercise for you. Okay, I want you to identify these sentences. Okay, yes. Yep. Now these are the sentences. The first one. We are watching Tibet TV. Okay, yes. You study this sentence and try to identify what type of sentence is this. The second one is, the teacher is teaching and we are listening. The teacher is teaching and we are listening. What type of sentence is this? Third one, if we miss anything, we can watch later. If we miss anything, we can watch later. What type of sentence is this? Okay, yes. And the last one, when teaching is going on, students can comment and teacher will respond. Okay, now I've got 4 sentences here I want you to identify. Please take your time. Okay, yes. I'm not going to be hurry. Okay, you take your time, go through these sentences and try to identify. You can also write, okay, number 1, what type of sentence is this? Number 2, what type of sentence is this? Number 3, what type of sentence? Number 4, what type of sentence? Okay, you have to identify all these things. Okay? Okay, yes. Now let us see. Okay, yes. If you have already written the which are answers, you try to check. Okay, cross check. First one, we are watching Tibet TV. Okay, yes. If you look at this sentence, there is only one independent clause. Okay, we are watching Tibet TV. So this is simple sentence. Okay, yes. And the second one, the teacher is teaching and we are listening. Okay, if you look at this sentence, you will find 2 independent clause. One, teacher is teaching, complete independent clause. Okay, the second one, we are listening. Okay, complete. Okay, independent clause. So 2 independent clause are joined by the connector and. Okay, so this becomes compound sentence. Okay, yes. And the third one, if we miss anything, we can watch later. Okay, yes. Now there are 2 clauses. Now let us try to identify the clauses, whether it is independent clause or dependent clause. If we miss anything, now this is dependent. It has to depend on something else. Okay, the next clause in order to make a complete sense. So I say, if we miss anything, then question comes, then what? Okay, yes, if we miss anything. So this is dependent clause. We can watch later. We can watch later. This is independent. It can make its own sense without having to depend on other. Okay, so what do we have in this sentence? In this sentence, we have got one independent clause and one dependent clause. So such type of sentence is called complex sentence. Okay, yes. Now let us look at the last one. When teaching is going on, students can command and teacher will respond. Okay, now if you look at this sentence, you will find so many clauses. Okay, let us start from the and. Okay, teacher will respond. This is independent clause. Teacher will respond. It makes a complete sense. Okay, then go further. Students can command. This is also independent clause. Students can command. This is independent clause. It makes its own, which is a meaning. Okay, and then the last part. When teaching is going on, there is a period, there is a comma. When teaching is going on. Now, this is dependent. It does not make a complete sense. In fact, you make the other person down what he or she is going to say next. Okay, because the sentence starts with when the teaching is going on. And then somebody will definitely ask, when the teaching is going on, then what? Okay, so you see, this sentence does not make complete sense. Okay, in order to make a complete sense, it has to depend on other clause. Okay, yes. So when teaching is going on, student can command and teacher will respond. This particular sentence is compound complex. Why? We have got one dependent clause, which is the beginning one, when teaching is going on, and we have got 2 independent clause. Student can learn, student can command, first one, teacher will respond. Okay, so there are 2 independent clauses. Okay, yes. Now, this is what we say about the 4 different types of sentences. Okay, yes. Now, let us quickly do a recapitulation, what we have done. Okay, yes, during these 2 which is a day, okay, session, okay. First, we have done the parts of speech, okay, yes. Right from the basic, we are starting parts of speech. There are 8 parts of speech. And from the parts of speech, we have taken one very important part, verb forms, in details. Okay, so many sessions have been, which is devoted in this particular verb form. And today, we focus mainly on the types of sentences, okay, types of sentences based on the structure and types of sentences based on its function. Okay, yes. And what are the 4 types of sentences? Now, these are the 4 types of sentences: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Okay, yes. Now, I'm going to write some, what should I say, clauses. Okay, you will get some idea. Okay, yes. Whenever, okay, yes, whenever. So, when we use this, whenever we go out, okay, comma. Now, this is always dependent clause. It does not make a complete sense. Whenever we go out, okay, we carry books. Okay, whenever we go out, we carry books. If you look at this, we carry books. Okay, this is independent clause. It makes a complete sense. Okay, yes, we have got independent clause. Okay, whenever we go out, this is not complete. There should be another sentence in order to make it complete. Okay, whenever we go out. So this is dependent. Okay, now we have got one dependent and one independent. What type of sentence is this? This is complex sentence. Complex sentence. Okay, yes. Now let us take another example. I eat momo. Okay, I eat momo and she eats tingmo. Okay, now I want you to look at this. Okay, I eat momo. This is independent clause. It makes its own sense. She eats tingmo. Again, this is independent clause. Now, in this sentence, how many clauses are there? There are 2 clauses, okay, and both these clauses are independent. That means they make their own sense. So, what type of sentence is this? This is compound. Okay, yes. Now, the third one, I teach English. Okay, yes. Now, we have got one clause. Okay, why this is a clause? Because it has its own subject and verb and it makes a complete sense. So, is it an independent clause or dependent clause? This is independent clause. I teach English. So, one independent clause. What type of sentence is this? This is simple sentence. Simple sentence. Okay, yes. Now, I'm going to add one more noun here. Okay, I teach English and Tibetan. Okay, now does this become a compound sentence? Because we have got this connector and. My question for you, okay, does this become a compound sentence? Okay, my answer is no. I teach English and Tibetan. Although we have got one connector here, this sentence does not become a compound sentence. Why? Tibetan is just a noun. Okay, so in this simple sentence, sometimes we can have 2 nouns here and it still becomes a simple sentence. Okay, for example, Dawa and Doji are friends. Okay, now does this become compound sentence just because there is and? No, the same thing. Okay, this is a simple sentence. Okay, why? There are 2 compound subject, 2 nouns, but the sentence is simple. Okay, so in a simple sentence, sometimes we can have compound verbs, we can also have compound nouns like this. Okay, now these are the three types of sentences. Okay, now let us talk about compound sentence. Okay, yep. Again, whenever I win. Okay, whenever I win. Now this is which is a clause, and this is a dependent clause because it does not make any sense. Whenever I win, my parents come and we celebrate. Okay, now I want you to look at this sentence and try to see what type of sentence is this. Now, in order to identify which type of sentence is this, it's important for you to study the clauses. Why? In sentence, we have got clauses. Okay, just Ketan Chola has already introduced you to the main clause and subordinate clause. Okay, main clause is the clause which makes its own sense. Okay, and which we say subordinate clause is the clause which has to depend on other. Okay, yes. So whenever I win, my parents come, we celebrate. Okay, yes, they are basically three clauses. Okay, the first one is whenever I win, my parents come, we celebrate. Okay, yes. Now let us try to identify the clauses. We celebrate. This is independent. Okay, yes, it makes sense. We celebrate. Okay, yes. The second one, my parents come. Okay, this is also independent because it can make sense of itself without depending on other. My parents come. Okay, now let us look at this one. Whenever I win. So sentence like, whenever a sentence begins with when, okay, before, after, although, even if, no matter what. Now, whenever we begin our sentence with all these words, there are so many other words, okay, we have to put comma because this does not make a complete sense. It has to depend on the other clause to make a complete sense. So, look at this. Whenever I win, it does not make a complete sense. This is dependent. Okay, now if you look at this sentence, how many clauses are there? What type of clauses are there in this particular sentence? Whenever this is dependent. Now you just say there is one dependent clause and two independent clauses. Okay, so what type of sentence is this? This is compound complex sentence. This is an example of compound complex sentence. Okay, there is one complex, okay, there is one compound. Okay, yes. So compound complex sentence. Okay, you just try to practice writing compound complex. It will be a good challenge for you. And whenever you come across any kind of reading material, I want you to identify. Okay, by this time, you will be able to identify. Whenever you find a small piece of paper, a small piece of any text, try to identify, okay, what is a simple sentence, what is a compound sentence, what is a complex sentence, and the last, what is a compound complex sentence. Okay, now these are the different degrees. You start from simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Wherever you come across any reading material, I'm sure you will come across at least one of these types of sentences. Okay, so today the overall session we just focused on the different types of sentences. I want you to recapitulate. You just try to go through all the sessions. Okay, yes, and we see you in the next, which is a session that will be the next week, where we will be discussing on the writing process. We have already introduced you to the words, verb, sentences. Now it's time for us to start writing paragraphs, where we are going to start with the different types of writing processes. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you so much, and see you next week.